Well, welcome back. Find my place to sit. I am Susan Jarvie, and we're going to be doing a yin practice today that is focusing mostly on hips. So what I would like you to do is take one block, and if you have blankets or beach towels or bath towels, you might be able to use those, or you can use those to support your legs. And instead of sitting cross-legged, I'm going to ask you to sit in hero's pose. So we'll be sitting back on the feet. If that is uncomfortable for you, please do sit cross-legged if that's comfortable, or sit in a chair for this first piece. We're just going to do a little breathing, scanning meditation, scanning the body. So I'm choosing to have a blanket under my knees for a little support. And then I'm going to sit back on the block. What you can also do, so my block will be here between the feet. So this is where I'll sit. Option, you can also take a blanket or a towel and roll it and place this at either the back of the knees. So we kind of push it up here. This can bring you a little extra comfort. You can still put the block here to sit on, or you could put it at the back of the ankles, and that could be comfortable as well. So we have some options. And also, blankets or blocks can be a little edgy. So you could also just take the blanket and put it on top of your block. And that's going to lift you up a little bit so that we take good care of our knees. So I'm going to sit back on this block, and we're going to hold this for, it's going to be a 5-minute hold. Actually, I'm going to take a blanket and put it there as well. I'm going to do a 5-minute hold. I heard somebody join us. Welcome. And once you, I keep looking over at my camera there so I can make sure I see the video is following what I'm doing. Okay, so once you are comfortable, we're going to be obviously sitting on the block, a blanket. You can also use take your block, and you can take it on the taller side if you want to, or stack your blankets higher so we can be super comfortable. And then come into the posture. Let your hands rest just quietly, softly on your thighs, and close your eyes. And once your eyes are closed, we are able to close out the world or leave the world around us behind and begin to move into our bodies. Now, please lift the crown of the head up towards the ceiling or sky. Make sure your chin is in a neutral position, so the chin is parallel to the floor. And I would like you to take the back of your neck and press the back of the neck towards the back of the room where you're sitting in, the back wall, or just press it back. And that's going to move the base of your skull back slightly, and it puts our neck in alignment, helping us overcome some of that text neck that so many people are getting these days. Relax your shoulders. Let your hips sink into what you're sitting on. And again, you can be sitting in hero pose the way I am, or if that is uncomfortable, sit cross-legged, sit up on something. Sitting in a chair is always an option. If you're in a chair, please move your seat to the edge of the chair, both feet on the floor and hip distance apart. And then from here, we take a moment to scan the body, scanning and noticing what you're feeling in your body today. Feeling the bones and the joints and the muscles. Where do you feel anything that's tight or sore or uncomfortable? If you have places that feel uncomfortable, use your breath to send a little energy and love to those places. By scanning the body, it gives us the opportunity to Kind of make a prescription for our practice today. Say your hips are a little tight today. You might know that when you're practicing to give them a little extra love, be a little more careful with those places. So it could be anything, any part of the body. Please guide your attention to your breath now. And take a long, deep, slow breath, breathing in through the nose. And then release slowly also through the nose, letting go of all the stale air out of your lungs. And please do that again. Breathe in long, deep, slow, broad. And release the breath slowly. Slowly and completely. Now let the breath settle into its own natural rhythm. And as you let the breath settle, begin to notice the journey of the breath, feeling breath move in through the nostrils, brushing the back of the throat. Feel the belly expand on your inhale. You might even feel the ribs expanding, the chest lifting. And as you exhale, we notice what that feels like as well. Everything narrows, relaxes, softens, and we let go of anything we're holding, any tension or stress. Just another minute here. Go ahead and let your breath deepen, breathing in longer and broader. And go ahead and open your eyes. And so we open our eyes to a new moment and a new beginning. And we're going to start by stretching the bottom of our feet. So if you're sitting on a blanket and your block or whatever you're sitting on, we'll go ahead and take that out from under us. And then use your hands to tip forward. Curl your toes under. And then we're going to sit back on our heels. And if this is uncomfortable for you, you don't have to sit all the way back. You can sit a little higher. You can also use the blanket once again under the thighs, or you could just stay in child or table and curl those toes under to get yourself a little stretch in the bottom of the feet. And we're going to hold for 2 minutes. Whatever you decide to do, if you're joining me this way, hands rest on your thighs. Again, lift the crown of the head up. Chin is parallel, back of the neck presses back, shoulders, release the shoulders, let the shoulders relax. And we're sinking our hips down into our heels, stretching the bottom of the feet, stretching out the toes. Find your breath, breathing in, feel the belly expanding. And breathing out, everything softens. Our inhales give us light and energy and love. Our exhales help us to let go of any tension or stress we're feeling. And we have 1 more minute. Focusing on the breath will help you to let go of anything you're feeling in your toes and your feet and your ankles. Breathing in, I know I breathe in. Breathing out, I know I breathe out. We just have about 15 seconds left. Beautiful. And then go ahead and come up on your or forward on your hands. Release your toes, maybe wiggle them, rotate the ankles a little bit. And then we're going to put the tops of the feet on the floor. So where you tie your shoes, we put that on the floor. And once again, we're going to sit back on the heels. So if that's uncomfortable or you find discomfort with the knees, of course, you can also take the blanket again and place it back behind you for a little more comfort, or roll it if you need to. Place that at the back of the ankles or behind the knees. Always have lots of options. Tops of the feet are on the floor. We're going to sink our hips back into our heels. And you may find it's a little easier since we've stretched out a little bit so far. From here, we're going to take our hands behind us and we're going to stretch out the top of the ankles. And we're doing that by pressing our seat into our heels, leaning back on the hands, and beginning to lift the knees off the floor. Need to see my clock. We're going to hold this for 1 minute. We're lifting those knees up. We're leaning back. Tops of the feet are on the floor. We're stretching the ankles. Remember, no pain. So if this is causing any discomfort where you're feeling a sharp pinpointing sensation, maybe let the knees come down a little bit, or you could always take a blanket and put it under the top of the knees to help you. So you have a little place to rest there. Find your breath once again, breathing in and releasing the breath. Press the back of the neck back. Chin is in alignment. Maybe even open the chest here a little bit. Shoulders wide, collarbones wide. Beautiful work, everybody. Go ahead and lower the knees. Walk your hands forward. And then from this position, we'll curl the toes under. And we're going to lift the knees because we're going to come into a forward fold standing. So you can either walk your hands back towards your feet or walk your feet forward. Feet are going to rest hip distance. Bend your knees so that your hamstrings are out of the equation. Please hold your elbows. Let the forearms drop towards the floor. The crown of the head drops towards the floor. We tuck the chin in slightly. And then gentle movement back and forth, swaying back and forth. And this is a long hold. We're going to hold this for 3 minutes. And if you feel like you're getting too much blood rushing to your head,
think you're on mute now. Maybe something with your microphone. I heard it click or do something.
Back.
Yep, you're back. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for letting me know. I dropped the base and that probably killed it. Okay, so we're almost there. About 30 more seconds. The microphones are a curse sometimes. Great for everybody to hear, though. Difficult to maneuver when you're practicing, but easier with yen because we're holding, so it's a little gentle, more gentle. Okay, from here, if your arms are up, go ahead and let them come down. And then if you're holding your arms, let that come down. And we are going to bring our body into a squat. So with your feet are hip distance, you could take your feet a little bit wider. You can also take the toes out to the side a little bit. So malasana is what we're going to do. And when you're ready, we'll drop the seat. So your seat comes down, your heels should stay on the floor. Most people have trouble keeping the heels down. So what you can do is take your blanket or your towel and roll it so that you can have something for your heels to rest on. So that is always an option. We're going to stay for 2 minutes. So make sure that your heels are down. Get them as high as you need to so they're touching something they can press into. And then we're going to take our arms between, I'll turn, arms between the legs, hands together in Anjali Mudra. And then think about pressing your upper arms out into the knees and then use your knees to hug in. So we're getting an isometric pressure there. So squeezing in and pressing out at the same time. And we're holding for a total of 2 minutes, but we've already been here for about 20 seconds. So just keep breathing. Lift the chest, finding that isometric pressure, and then think about the tailbone and press that back towards the wall behind you. And close your eyes and breathe. Maybe find a smile with your face, corners of the mouth turning up into a smile. Squats are not very fun. We should squat every day, right? At least once a day. Move yourself into a squat for good health. And it's great for digestion. And just about 30 more seconds if you can. If it's too long of a hold, you can always take a break, come up onto table or child's pose and rest there and join us again when you're ready. If your feet are on the floor, where they should be on the floor, press your toes down, big toe knuckles, press into the floor. That's going to help you with some stability. Keep lifting the chest, relaxing the shoulders, crown of the head lifts. And again, we're pressing the shoulders or the upper arms out into the knees as the knees hug in, or the inner thighs. Inner thighs and knees, wherever your hands and arms are, breathing in and breathing out. And from our squat, we are going to come back up into that ragdoll position. So we'll take our hands to the floor, tip forward if you need to, come up, walk your feet back into a neutral position. Again, hold the elbows, crown of the head drops, and you can gently sway back and forth if you want to, or stay static. And this time, maybe your hamstrings are a little more ready to start to lift or open into the back of the knees. And we do that by lifting the tailbone up towards the ceiling. And that begins to help us lengthen into the back of the knees as we open the legs, or keep the knees bent and continue to hold this ragdoll pose. Breathing in. I know I breathe in. Breathing out. I know I breathe out. When your mind starts to drift away, you start to think about, how long are we holding this? Keep coming back to breath. If you'd like to, circle your arms back behind you. Leave the fingers and open the chest. Notice maybe you have a little more space in your chest and the front of the shoulders than you did the first time you did this. Let me start to lift that tailbone, lengthening into the back of the legs. Try to keep your spine long. If you discover that when you straighten your legs or press into the legs, you start to round your spine, then definitely keep the knees bending so we have length in the spine. Go ahead and release your arms, your hands, and we're going to go back to that squat. So once again, we can take the feet a little wider, turn the toes out to the sides. So they're just angling kind of a 45-degree angle. And then we drop the seat and we come into, once again, our hands Anjali Mudra, pressing out into the legs pressing into the upper arms. Crown of the head is lifted, shoulders soft. And we breathe and hold. We've got 1 minute here. Yin yoga really requires a lot of patience and the ability to center our attention on one thing. And I like to focus on breathing. If you have an object in the room you'd like to look at instead, that's an option. Or finding a word or a mantra is also a good idea. Something that will keep your mind busy while you're holding these longer holds. We hold the postures longer to give the body a chance to open and stretch and find space. And those inhales bring energy to us. They also create space in the muscles. So we want to keep breathing slow, longer breaths. All right, so from here, we're going to tip back onto our seat. And so we just drop back. If you have a towel or a rolled up blanket under your heels, you'll go ahead and take that out. And we will come into a seated position, lengthening the legs. Knees can stay bent if you want to, or if you need to. Otherwise, we let the legs come down. Flex your feet, draw the toes back, and then bounce your legs out a little bit. Stretch. Just kind of letting that stretch out. And then when you're ready, we're going to press the knees down as we lengthen into the back of the legs. Toes draw back towards you, toward your nose. Feet are flexing. Please take your hands behind you. And we're going to stretch the chest. So staying on the fingertips gives you a little more space, kind of gives your arms more length. Or you can take the hands down and really start to lift the chest toward the ceiling. As you lift your chest, be sure to draw the navel back toward the spine so that you're protecting your lower back. We don't want to arch from behind the low back. Our arch is coming from the chest. Back of the head presses back. We're opening those shoulders. Should feel pretty good because we've already done a little bit of chest opening in our forward fold. Go ahead and then release that. Whew. That should feel pretty good. Go ahead and wiggle your toes, maybe rotate the ankles a little bit. And then we're going to come up onto our hands and knees. And we're going to move into a frog pose. I don't know if you've done frog before, but your knees are going to be very wide. And for me, I need a lot of cushion under the knees. And so I'm going to take my blanket and turn it. I'm actually going to do it a couple versions so you can see, but I'm going to turn it wide like this so my knees can go wide. And we're going to come from table. And to start, we're going to take the knees wide and bring the toes together. And we want to get the hips so they're over the knees. And then we start to let the knees go way wide. So I'm sliding the knees apart as I bring my hips towards the floor. Now, when you find that first place where you feel kind of that dull, achy sensation, you can stay there. Now, you can also stay up on the hands like I am, or down onto your forearms. And so we go on the forearms. The palms can come together. You can weave the fingers together or put the hands down. And we keep pressing the hips down towards the floor. And our knees are lining up with the hips. The next step here, if you can, would be to begin to take your feet out so that your ankles are lining up with the knees and the toes are out to the sides. And then see if you can kind of walk back, press the hips back just a little. You're going to find that place where it's a very dull, achy sensation. It's not a great feeling. We're really going to open up these hips. We're going to hold here, breathing in, breathing out. We've got a 3-minute hold. 3 minutes can be a long time. Think about breathing in and counting to 4 on the inhale. And then we'll hold 4 at the top of our inhale. And we're going to exhale 8. If those numbers are too big for you, choose a number that works best for you. And we breathe in 1, 2, 3, 4. Exhale or hold 1, 2, 3, 4. Exhale 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. There's no hold at the bottom. Inhale 1, 2, 3, 4. Hold 1, 2, 3, 4. Exhale 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Inhale 4. We've only got 30 seconds left. Hold at the top for 4. And exhale 8. Find your breath. And when you're ready, we're going to gently find our way to child's pose. You might curl the toes under, lift the knees, however you can get there. Walk your knees in, and then sink your hips back into your heels. And I would say if your forehead is levitating,
Stack your fist and place your head there so that you have somewhere for your forehead to rest. You can also stack the forearms, or alternatively, take your arms behind you. Palms of the tops of your hands will rest on the floor, and your forehead could come to the floor. So if you're levitating, though, make sure you have something under the forehead. You could also take a block and place your head on that block. And we're going to hold and breathe and relax into this posture. Just for 1 minute. Feel your belly expanding into or between the thighs. And as you're exhaling, everything softens. The hips get heavier. Our shoulders relax. And we once again find that inhale. And go ahead and come up, hands under shoulders, roll your way up or coming up. And then from here, we're going to move into pigeon. And so there's a couple of ways to get into pigeon. You can just come into table. I'm going to take my left leg back, curl my toes under, and kind of lift my knee forward. The other option is to move to a down dog first. And from that down dog, we bring the knee into the chest. And then once again, I'm going to flick your foot forward and find it. Or take a big step forward into a high lunge and then walk heel toe until you get your right foot all the way over to your left hand. And then we come up onto the outer edge of that foot. Let your knee come down. And then the hips sink towards the floor as the back leg comes down. We have options for child's pose. If you discover that your hip is really hiked up high or it's uncomfortable, take a blanket and roll it and put it under that hip. That is an option. And then remember, the higher your foot is on the yoga mat, so if my foot is really high, it's going to be a much more intense posture. If it's too intense, let your foot come down closer to your groin. We want to make sure our knee is along the outer edge of the yoga mat. Our foot is along the other edge. So we're wide, and we'll stay here, finding the breath. Some people love pigeon and some people do not. We've got about 30 seconds before we switch sides. If you want to, or you can always come down onto your forearms. And if that's a good feeling for you, if everything's feeling good, we'll go ahead and walk the hands out, let the forehead come to the floor or to a block. Breathing in, belly inflates. Breathing out, belly softens. And when you're ready, we're going to go ahead and find our way into the second side. If you'd like to do a downward dog between sides, feel free to do that. Otherwise, we can just kind of come back to a plank and then lift the other side. Take your time, making yourself comfortable here, remembering that you can put a blanket under that hip. And we want to try to square the hips. So oftentimes our body tries to escape and we lean over to that bent knee side. We really want to try to stay up on the hips so that they are squaring to the front edge of your yoga mat. After a few breaths, I'm going to come down onto the forearms and even maybe onto your arms stretched out. And you can always place your head on a block here as well. Finding your breath, breathing in, feel your belly expanding. Breathing out, softening, letting go. And when you're ready, we'll go ahead and bring our hands under us and find our way up. And either downward dog or back to table. Table here or down dog. Take a breath. And when you're ready, right foot's going to get forward so we can step. If you're in down dog, great big step, placing your foot just inside your right hand, or you can always come back to table and bring your foot up that way. Once you're there, back knee is going to be on the floor. But what I would like you to do is kind of slide that knee back a little bit so that your knee is not under the hip. Like right here, you can see my knee is under the hip. I want to slide that foot back so that the knee is down, back. And then top of the foot is on the floor. Our hands are going to stay on the floor. And your right knee should be over the right ankle. And then I want you to press your hips toward the floor and forward. And so at that point, when you start to press forward, your knee might come forward a little bit, and that's okay. It's safe to have the knee forward of the ankle here because our left knee is on the floor. And we're going to hold and take a few breaths, breathing in, breathing out. We've got about 20 seconds here. And then the next stage, if you are moving on, is to take your hands to your thigh. And so we lift the chest, and I like to press the hands into the thigh, pull the belly back, and then lift your chest. And we'll hold for another 20 seconds. You should feel this. Hope you're not hearing it. Feeling the front of your left hip, the hip flexor, nice deep stretch. You might even feel it on the right because you're pressing onto it. You're kind of squeezing it. So you'll feel it on both sides. Beautiful. Hands come back down to the floor. And then we're going to come into a lizard pose. So hands can be on the floor. We'll turn the right toes out to the side slightly. Press your knee out to the side, even coming up onto the outer edge of that right foot. Now you can stay here or maybe come down onto your forearms. And we'll hold and breathe. And we've got about 30 seconds here. Hips are pressing down towards the floor. Lift the back of your neck so you're not dropping your head towards the floor. You want the neck to be in somewhat of alignment with the spine if you can. Pressing that knee out to the side. Now, please go ahead and put your foot back down. So you've pressed your knee out to the side. You're on the outer edge of your right foot. Bring the whole foot back to the floor. If you're on your forearm, we're going to stay there. And we're going to take the right hand and press into our thigh, pressing the thigh away from us. Pull the navel to the spine, rotate so that you can look up toward the ceiling. So your left ribs are kind of reaching towards your right thigh. And then notice if you're leaning towards the left part of your left leg, we want to try to stay on the kneecap. So the kneecap is on the floor. We're getting a deep twist. And release. Come up onto the hands. We're going to step back, either to table or to downward facing dog. So table first if you want to. Take a breath. If you have a downward dog into you, curl the toes, lift the knees, press. Your time, we have a second side. So we're going to step that left foot up to the top. Bring the back knee down. And keeping the hands on the floor, press your hips towards the floor and forward and breathe. Top of the right foot will be on the floor. And you might even think about isometrically dragging that right knee forward. It doesn't really move much, but it's an isometric action. So you're squeezing your left heel and your right knee toward each other. And that's going to help us to stretch with our muscles active. And you can come up onto the hands to the knee or the thigh now if you'd like to. Press your hands into your leg, pull the navel back, and begin to lift the chest. Back of the neck presses back. Chin can lift slightly. And when you're ready, hands will come down. We'll find that lizard pose. I like to turn the left toes out to the side just a little to give us a little more space for our hips. Press the hips forward and down and take a few breaths. And then we'll come down onto the forearms if you can, or you can stay on your hands, or you could even grab a couple blocks and place your forearms there. That gives you a little extra space. And then when you're ready, you'll come up onto the outer edge of that left foot, pressing your knee out to the side. Gentle, stay gentle. Always working on the soft edge and finding your breath. If the knee doesn't feel good when you're pressing it to the side, just keep the foot on the floor and hold. And it depends on your hips. And we know our body is different from side to side. And so be careful and be mindful from side to side, what everything feels like. And be patient. Beautiful. We're going to go ahead and put the full foot on the floor again. Take our left hand to that thigh, pressing out and rotating. Stay on the right knee as you begin to pull the navel back and rotate, turning the right ribs towards the left thigh and look at the ceiling if you can. If it hurts to look at your, if your neck doesn't like this full twist, you can always turn the neck to a comfortable place. Turn your head either down or to the side or up. And release. And very gently, slowly find your way back to downward facing dog or table. And we're going to hold for about 30 seconds. If you're in down dog, think about rotating your armpits so they're turning towards your ears. Fingers are wide. Fingerprints and knuckles are all pressing into the yoga mat. Navel draws up and really pushing our hips and our thighs back towards the wall behind us. And please take your knees to the floor. And we're going to come onto our seat and ultimately onto our backs. So if you have a blanket on your yoga mat like I do, I'm going to go ahead and take that off unless you want it there for your shavasana when we get to the end. We're not doing anything where it's going to cause you to slip. We're just going to come onto our backs. And as you roll your weight down onto your back, please be sure to keep your feet on the floor with your knees bent. Roll your way down. And once you're on the floor, let's just pause and breathe. Palms face down, arms next to your sides. And feel your body on the earth. And then go ahead and bring the right knee in towards the chest. Stretch your left leg out straight along the yoga mat. And we're going to move into a twist. So we'll take that right leg over to the left. You can take your left hand to the knee and help guide that leg over. Your right arm will come on the floor, extending out from the shoulder. Let your right foot come to the floor. And you're going to find the right shoulder might pop off the floor. That's okay. If it's more than 6 inches, take your hand to your thigh or to your hip and just let the weight of the shoulder soften. Otherwise, the palm and the arm is out to the side, palm face up. And then maybe look over your shoulder to the right. And think about rotating the left ribs towards the right thigh by drawing the navel in toward the spine as you exhale. That's going to help us to twist a little deeper. Our twists come from our waist. Sometimes we try to crank those shoulders to get into these twists, and that is not always helpful or even safe for the shoulder muscle. Think about pulling the navel back. And as you are exhaling, squeezing the navel in, rotate the ribs, rotate the chest. Let's hold for another 2 breaths. And when you're ready, turn your gaze back to the ceiling, lift that heavy leg back up. And we're going to bring the left knee in. Give yourself a good squeeze, pulling the knees down into the chest. And then if you'd like to rock a little, feel free to do that as well. Help to massage the muscles of our spine, the muscles that hold the spine. And back to the middle. With our left knee tucked into the chest, go ahead and lengthen your right leg out straight along the yoga mat. And then right hand to the left knee as we guide that left knee up to the right. Let your foot come down. Squeeze the belly, rotate the ribs, look over your left shoulder. Left arm extends out from the shoulder, palm faces the ceiling. And find your breath, breathing in and breathing out. Go ahead and turn your gaze back up, lift your leg back up. Pull your knees into your chest. Looking to see my clock. Knees come in. Rock a little back and forth. And then come back to the center, and we're going to take our hands to our knees and move the knees in great big circles. Push your knees forward, straightening the arms. Take the knees wide, as wide as you can go, and then pull the knees towards the armpits and bring them back to center towards the middle of the chest. And do that again twice more. And as you're moving the knees, notice the hips, feeling the journey of the hips, stretching the muscles out just a little bit more. Let's reverse those circles and we'll go 3 times this direction. Pull the knees tightly into the chest, take them wide toward the underarms, towards the floor, and then forward and back together. And then come back up to the top. And we'll do a few rounds of Apanasana. As you exhale, your belly falls. You have room now to squeeze the knees into the chest. When you inhale, you need space. So let the knees float away from your chest just a few inches. So your belly and your chest have space to rise. Exhale, squeeze the knees down. Inhale, float them away. And squeeze in one more time. And then our last and final posture this morning is Shavasana. And I welcome you to use your yoga props to make your body comfortable. I like to often take a blanket and drape it over the hips. I'll show you that. Stretching the legs out. I'll just take that blanket and drape it over the hips. Open the arms to the side, palms face up, feet just a little wider than hip distance, and toes out to the sides. And this little bit of weight on the hips really can help our signal our nervous system to begin to relax. Helps us feel a little more secure. If your legs, when they're straight, causes your lower back to have any kind of discomfort, then you can always either keep your feet on the floor with your knees bent or roll the blanket and place that under the back of the knees. And I know it sounds kind of funny because sometimes people will say, well, I need the blanket under my hips or under my back. That actually will give you more of an arch than you need. So just using the blanket under the knees is going to support the lower back so that our legs are not so straight and the lower back can be more comfortable here. So that's another option. And then if you have an eye pillow, I recommend placing that over your eyes. That little bit of pressure on the eyeballs will help to trigger the nervous system to move to parasympathetic, away from our fight or flight response. And then go ahead and rest. I'm going to stay here for about 4 to 5 minutes. I'm going to sit up and guide you a little bit, guide you through some relaxation. So find your posture using your props in any way you need to. And once you're settled in, let the weight of your body sink and soften into whatever you're resting on, the floor, most likely, your yoga mat. Feeling the weight of the heels sink, toes relax, let the legs feel heavy, and soften the hips. Hips are soft, melty as they relax. The whole spine rests comfortably. Let the arms feel heavy and relax the fingers. And as the fingers relax, they will gently begin to curl towards the palms of your hands. That is nothing that you need to make happen. It happens all by itself. Just notice it. Let the shoulders relax. And as the shoulders relax, you'll notice your collarbones grow wide. And that allows us to soften the neck and the throat muscles. Relax your jaw. And all the muscles of the face, the cheekbones grow soft. Let the cheeks are soft. Let the cheekbones feel heavy and the temples soft. Release the corners of the eyes, allowing the eyeballs to soften and sink into the sockets. We notice the eyelids softly covering the eyeballs. Allow the space between the eyebrows to grow wide. And relax the forehead. And if you're hearing my dogs bark, acknowledge that sound for what it is. It's a dog barking. And we then move our attention back to relaxing the body and ultimately to the breath. Noticing that when we breathe in, the belly and the chest expand. And when we breathe out, everything softens. Breathing in, I know I breathe in. Breathing out, I know I breathe out. And we can't stop the noise of the world. So when there is a distraction, whether it's something that your mind pulled you toward, or if it's a sound in your own home, acknowledge that for what it is, give it a label, and let it go as you guide your attention back to breathing, as you rest your body in Shavasana. This posture is the most important one that we do. It is where our body assimilates all the postures that came before this one. We reap the greatest benefit of our practice here. Now you can choose to stay in Shavasana as long as you'd like. If you would like to end your practice, please draw the knees into your chest. Give yourself a great big hug of love and gratitude for this body that carried you through your yoga class, your yoga practice, and meets your demands throughout your day. Roll to a side and find your way up when you're ready. And we'll sit cross-legged and join our hands in Anjali Mudra. Sit nice and tall. And we'll take one more deep breath. Breathe in long, deep, and broad. And then a slow exhale, letting go of any tension or stress you might still hold. Thank you for joining me today, allowing me to guide you through this practice. As you move into the day, please remember that your presence matters. Always remember that you matter. I honor the light that is in you. Namaste. Thank you so much. I hope you have a lovely day, and I will see you again next week. Please give me feedback. You can send me an email or stay on the camera here or the Zoom, and we can have a chat if you'd like to. Otherwise, I'll see you next week.
Thank
Have a
you.
great day. Thank you, Beth. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye, Rosemary.
Bye.
And that is it. Okay.